Your loved one died without a will in the state of Georgia. Let's talk about that. After we get through these Georgia inheritance laws, if you don't have a will, you're going to want to run out to the nearest attorney and get one drawn up. You're going to see where real estate sometimes gets hung up in this whole probate process when you don't have a will. So let's dive in. If you pass away and you leave behind your spouse and your spouse inherits 1/3 of the estate and the children inherit 2/3 of the estate, and it's divided out amongst them equally. Where I see trouble with real estate is if you didn't take your title correctly and you do not have rights of survivorship on it, then you as a surviving house owns 50% of the house, and the spouse who passed away, their estate owns the other 50%. And as you go through the probate process, that 1/3 and 2/3 rule applies, which means all of a sudden, you now are on title with your house and your children. And sometimes children don't get along, and they may, even with their parents, they may even want to sell that property. And in the state of Georgia, you can't force somebody to own a property. So this is one of those hang-ups where you just pray that the family's getting together and that they can work it all out so that mom or dad isn't kicked out of their own house because they inherited part of it along with their children. If you die with just a spouse and you don't have any children, then everything goes to the spouse. That's pretty easy peasy. Same thing if you die without a spouse and you have children, then the estate's going to go all to the children and divided equally. Now, where you run into problems with this is sometimes children don't get along, and real estate's very hard to divide. So you may have one who wants to stay with the property and one who wants to get rid of it and sell it, and then they're both on title, and it causes a big mess. If you pass away and you have no spouse and no children, it goes up to your parents. And this is okay, I suppose, if your parents are still married. But what if they're divorced and they don't get along and they inherit your estate? Then again, you're trying to divide that real estate, which can be really hard endeavor for people to do. If you pass away and you don't have immediate relatives, the estate could pass on to your siblings. If you don't have any siblings left, then it could go on to your nieces and nephews. If you don't have any nieces and nephews left, then it could go on to cousins. And the more people you bring into this situation, the worse it gets about having to divide the real estate. And everybody's going to get along and everybody's going to sign off to get the property sold. Finally, if you die and you don't have any relatives whatsoever, it reverts to the state of Georgia. If you have a will, you could at least donate it to another beneficiary, because who really wants the state to get all the goods? Now I'm going to throw one more wrench into this inheritance law stuff. Let's go back up to the spouse and children scenario. So if you pass away and you have a spouse and children, what if those children are minors? If those children are minors, the court has to appoint guardianship over those minors, which means the living spouse doesn't even have a say on who's appointed over those children, because that guardian's there to make sure that the estate is being handled appropriately for those children. And all of a sudden, your spouse has inherited the home with children who are under the age of 18, who don't really even understand about real estate. So you can see where, if you don't have a will, there's a lot of things that can cause a conundrum for those that you leave behind, whether it be your spouse, your children, your relatives, and you just pray that everyone's getting along. So now that you understand a little bit more about the inheritance laws, if you need a good recommendation for an attorney to help you draw up a will, I've got several I can recommend to you. And if you need help with your real estate here in the state of Georgia, let me know. I specialize in probate. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Are you digging the kind of content I'm producing? Then be sure to watch this next video. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. That way, you'll be in the know when I release my next video.